If I asked you, where in the Bible can we find the birth of Jesus? What would you say? If you answered in the New Testament Gospels, you'd be right, but I would only give you half points. Could you be more specific? Maybe you already knew the answer, or maybe you read the title of this video, but the answer of Jesus' nativity can be found in specifically the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Now, what information do you remember about the story? As Christians, we are reminded every Christmas season about the details. An angel appeared before the Virgin Mary and Joseph to tell them that they're going to have a child. Jesus is born in Bethlehem. Jesus is born in a manger because there is no space for him in the inn. As a baby, he is visited by shepherds and wise men who gift him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And they followed a star in the night sky in order to find him. But wait, are you sure about this information? Or are the details a little fuzzy? Did an angel appear before Mary, or Joseph, or both of them? Who followed the star? Was it the wise men or the shepherds? Why was Jesus born in a manger in the first place? Why was he not at home? Although we hear the story every year, sometimes we take for granted what we supposedly know if we don't take the time to revisit it or study it on our own. As mentioned earlier, the information of Jesus' birth can be found in Matthew and Luke, but these two Gospels contain different information. In Matthew, an unnamed angel appears before Joseph after Mary's pregnancy. Meanwhile, in Luke, the angel Gabriel appears before Mary, telling her that she will become pregnant. In Luke, we learn that Mary and Joseph were traveling due to a census. In Matthew, we don't get this information. Luke also mentions a manger. Matthew does not. Matthew mentions wise men from the east who come following a star bearing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. There is no mention of shepherds. Meanwhile, in Luke, there is no mention of wise men, but it talks about shepherds who were in the field when an angel appeared for them announcing the birth of Jesus, so they decided to go visit him. The mainstream nativity story as we know it is a combination of these two accounts. So, that begs the question, why the different accounts? To help answer this, it helps to know some background information of the two books. Matthew was writing towards a Jewish audience. We can tell this because Matthew's Gospel doesn't contain explanations of Jewish customs. He assumes that his audience is already familiar with it. That is why in Matthew chapter 1, the author traces Jesus' lineage back to Abraham because he is the fulfillment of the Jewish Old Testament Messiah. Abraham, as you probably already know, is considered the patriarch of the Jewish people. But by Matthew also including the wise men from the east who bear gifts, he is also emphasizing that the good news of the gospel isn't limited only to the Jewish people. The gospel of a savior is also available to non-Jews. You just have to choose to follow Jesus. Matthew wants his audience to embrace Jewish tradition, but also evolve it to welcome a larger community. On the other hand, Luke wrote his gospel with a Gentile and non-Jewish audience in mind. We can tell this because Luke does explain Jewish customs and he uses Roman dating. Luke wanted to show his audience that Jesus is the Savior of all people. That is why in chapter 3 of his gospel, he traces the lineage of Jesus all the way not to just Abraham, but beyond all the way to Adam, the patriarch of all people. In contrast to Matthew, this may be why Luke chose to emphasize the shepherds instead of the wise men in his account. Greek and Roman culture viewed shepherds as symbols of gods and humans living in peace, and nature being at harmony. Luke could be using this symbolism to demonstrate that Jesus is the embodying harmony of God and men. So, why couldn't the authors just include all the information? Why just include bits of the story each? The truth is, I don't know. But I assume the reason why is because each author wanted to emphasize specific points while keeping their intended audience in mind. And what's important to note too is that the information we are given is complementary and not contradictory. All of these events could have taken place without any of the story conflicting. When you study the Bible, you may feel like you run into challenges that you can't explain. But that's definitely not a good reason to not study it. And also, that's not always the case. Sometimes you just need more study to resolve the issue. And after doing so, you gain a greater understanding and appreciation for its writings. And most importantly, you grow a deeper relationship with Jesus, that once upon a time baby who is still the greatest gift to mankind. Merry Christmas.